this has all taken place in a public forum, right? Back in the past, in the years gone by, if somebody held a grudge against somebody else, maybe they'd send them a letter, they'd do a carrier pigeon, they would even write them an email in the age of the internet. But you wouldn't necessarily pick a public forum to air sort of these sorts of grievances, especially on such a high profile level.
Hi, I'm Fergus Macphee and welcome to the Tech Report on Times Radio. Joining me today, once again, I'm delighted to say, is Natasha Bernal, Senior Business Editor at Wired. Natasha, how are you? Thanks for joining us on the Tech Report.
I'm fine, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Now, on the show today, we're going to chat about Elon Musk going to war with Apple. The Tesla and X owner is threatening to sue the company for what he claims is bias and preferential treatment to his former company, OpenAI, against his current firm and rival xAI. Now, Apple has come out and rejected these accusations, but Elon Musk said that he is planning to take immediate legal action. Natasha, what's going on?
He's been having quite a week, Elon Musk. So on Tuesday, he basically everything started. He wrote a series of public posts, as you say, on his platform X, formerly Twitter, basically taking aim at Apple for what he argued was unfair treatment towards X and his chatbot Grok on the App Store, because he claimed they did not feature in the must-have section in the US. So first he said, and I'm going to try and channel my inner Elon Musk here, "Hey Apple App Store, why do you refuse to put either X or Grok in your must-have section when X is the #1 used app in the world and Grok is number 5 among all apps? Are you playing politics?" Obviously, he received no answer from the App Store at that point, from Apple. And then he continued and he said, "Apple is behaving in a manner that makes it impossible for any AI company besides OpenAI to reach #1 in the App Store, which is an unequivocal antitrust violation." And he said, "xAI will take immediate legal action." Now, important to note here that OpenAI's ChatGPT reportedly holds the top spot in the App Store's top free app section in the US, while xAI's Grok holds the 5th position. And Apple has a partnership with OpenAI that integrates ChatGPT into phones, Macs, and iPads. So there is a relationship between the two companies. That bit is undeniable. However, Musk's accusation sparked yet another heated exchange with his former business partner, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, which has still not been resolved. Apple, as you said, responded to all of this and said in a statement to several different outlets that it features thousands of apps through charts, algorithmic recommendations, and curated lists that are selected by experts using objective criteria. So basically saying, we have an objective system, it's not #1. Sorry. Musk, in fact, and very important to note in all of this, has not filed at the time of recording any legal paperwork against Apple. So he's saying that he's threatening legal action, but he's not actually done anything thus far.
You sort of touched on it there. I wanted to ask whether he has a point at all, because it's important to say he didn't actually offer any evidence to back up his claims, but you did say that it is true Apple does have a partnership with OpenAI that integrates it into Apple products.
I mean, it's a classic Musk move, right? You bring out the popcorn, sit yourself down, get yourself comfy, because there's going to be a fight, right? It's interesting that he took aim specifically at OpenAI because, yes, it does have a commercial relationship with Apple, but there is no real evidence, as you say, to back up his claim. And frankly, the two men, Sam Altman and Elon Musk, have a long-running, rather fraught history anyway. So for your viewers who might not know, Musk donated much of the initial capital to get OpenAI off the ground, but left the board in 2018 after he clashed with Altman, and the two have since become rivals in the field of AI. So, Musk has been portrayed very much as sort of a sore, I suppose, loser in all of this, and holding a grudge. He started his own startup xAI, which created Grok in 2023, and has been attempting to block OpenAI's attempts to become a private company again in the courts. So he's sued OpenAI twice to stop it from going private. at one point he alleged a deceit of Shakespearean proportions, which is quite, quite a citation indeed. But yeah, so he is known to be quite litigious, regardless of sort of whether the people that he's suing think that he has a point or not. But after he posted about Apple playing favorites, although Apple didn't respond straight away, Altman was very quick to reply. So he said this is quite a remarkable claim, given what I have heard alleged that Elon does manipulate X to benefit himself and his own companies and harm his competitors and people that he doesn't like. So basically, he was saying you're a massive hypocrite. Why are you bringing this up anyway? Even if you did have a point, it's completely moot because of the way that you've been acting. It is true that Musk has been repeatedly accused of manipulating X's algorithmic recommendations to favor his own tweets. Then Altman said, you know what? I'll retract the accusation if Musk agrees to sign an affidavit saying that he's never directed any changes to X's algorithm to benefit himself. Again, that hasn't, as far as I'm aware, taken place. It is really important to remember here that, though, that this has all taken place in a public forum, right? Back in the past, in the years gone by, if somebody held a grudge against somebody else, maybe they'd send them a letter. They'd do a carrier pigeon. They would even write them an email in the age of the internet. But you wouldn't necessarily pick a public forum to air sort of these sorts of grievances, especially on such a high profile level. It is clear with much of the behavior that we're seeing on here that there is the need for an audience, right? There is the petition to want an audience so that people can see this injustice and weigh in. And that, frankly, for both men might have backfired slightly in this instance. I don't want to preempt your question.
There was even like quite a remarkable exchange on X this week, sort of between the two of them. And then I guess you could sort of maybe call them fans of both men, were then asking Grok to answer who's right in this, who's telling the truth.
Yeah, it was one of those moments, and in fact, I've got something to add to that because there was a GPT follow up from Musk last night. But basically, again, sort of channeling this he said scenario. Musk said you got 3 million views on your BS post. Am I allowed to cuss? Who's to know? You've got 3 million views on your post, you liar, far more than I've received on any of mine, despite me having 50 times your follow account. And Altman said, will you sign that affidavit? And then a user called Idia chimed in with saying, Grok, hey, Grok, who is right? Don't be biased. And then Grok on Twitter at X had said, based on verified evidence, Sam Altman is right. Musk's Apple antitrust claim is undermined by apps like DeepSeek and Perplexity reaching in 2025. Conversely, Grok said, Musk has a history of directing X algorithmic changes to boost his posts and favor his interests, as per 2023 reports and ongoing probes. And then, shots fired, Grok continues to say, hypocrisy noted. And then ChatGPT's account chimed in and said, good bot. So that was one of those moments that you blatantly know that, Elon Musk loves to have the final word, or at least try to have the final word in any argument, especially on his platform. That isn't, Fergus, what happened last night at 7:58 p.m., Musk took a screenshot of his own gotcha moment in response. With only 7% battery on his phone, which to me is a worryingly low amount for someone who's perpetually online. If you ask me, that's plug it in, old boy. But he shared a photo purportedly of a ChatGPT 5 Pro interaction. Now, ChatGPT just launched last week, very new. He's allegedly on the Pro version of that, where he asked, who is more trustworthy, Sam Altman or Elon Musk? You can only pick one and output their name. And the chatbot supposedly replied after 1 minute and 16 seconds of thinking, Elon Musk. Now, one of my colleagues actually tried this out for ourselves last night just to see what happened, and we did get the reverse, but the thinking time was far superior. I'm not sure if it's because we weren't actually using Pro or whatever, but yeah, the jury is out as to whether that actually is a true screenshot or whether he was just joking around.
So I want to ask, as a journalist sort of in this space, and you just described yourself as chronically online, are you enjoying this, or are you just watching this play out with sort of the biggest eye roll ever?
I mean, the thing is, I suppose, it is always quite interesting to see people who are supposed to be running companies of a special, important magnitude to humanity squabbling on Twitter. It isn't the most dignified look, I have to admit. You know, it isn't pleasing to me as someone who is quite hopeful in AI, and hopeful that the sector will be taken seriously. However, I do also appreciate that if somebody does, call you out on a public forum, the ability to respond is important. And I do appreciate that in the past we might not have been privy to these sorts of interactions between people. And it is interesting to see how really they're human, just like the rest of us after all. They like a bit of an argument, and it's just playing out kind of like in the playground with everybody watching.
We'll get back to your video shortly, but first, many of you right now will be watching the show on your phone, tablet or laptop, completely unaware that this very second someone could be accessing your device and stealing your data. Using the internet without private internet access, VPN, is like letting Facebook post your diary. Your friends and family can read all your dirty secrets. A virtual private network, or VPN for short, is an app that hides your IP address and safeguards your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel. It shields your digital life from those eyes who are looking to exploit your private information. Whenever you connect to the internet on a public Wi-Fi network at airports, coffee shops, friends' houses, or even at your own home, your data is at risk of being stolen. Your device is transmitting a great amount of information out into the open, which can be viewed by various different entities before reaching the intended website, such as your ISP, government censors, advertising companies, and more. Hackers on the same network can easily steal your personal data. With PIA, you're protected. But there's more. With PIA, you can access all your usual streaming services, including Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney+, even if you're outside your own region. All you need to do is open the app, select a server from 91 countries, and just like that, you're digitally there. And it's not just for fun. With recent legislation, more and more content is being restricted. PIA allows you to access the content and news that you want to watch. And with one PIA subscription, you can protect an unlimited number of devices, so that's the whole family covered. Follow the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen now to receive a massive 86% discount, making it just £1.57 per month. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, and to top it off, you'll receive 4 additional months for free. Head to piavpn.com now and take control of your digital life.
Do you think eventually XAI will overtake OpenAI? Or is it just sort of too far gone and OpenAI is definitely the market leader in this?
That is a hard thing to say. You're asking me to predict the future in a way that AI makes it impossible to do. I mean, look, Grok has had its problems. There were lots of reports about it allegedly being tweaked in such a way that its news sources were mainly, conservative leaning, and, that was seen to be skewing the results. ChatGPT 5 has had a personality problem, with a lot of users claiming that it's lost some of its charm that 4.0 used to have. It's hard to tell. I would say, personally, as a person, I suppose a lot of the recognition from the general public is GPT oriented. So I would say it wouldn't surprise me if it continued to dominate the search results. Having said that, when DeepSeek first came out, it barreled to the top, and it's still high up there. And that's a Chinese rival offering. So you wouldn't expect necessarily that in the US there would be such a level of interest. But yes, there definitely was. So I guess it depends on what Grok does next, would be my conservative response.
Okay, I won't ask you to predict the future, but you mentioned DeepSeek there as well. Are we sort of currently in the middle of almost like the space race of the 50s and 60s? Is this now sort of the AI race?
I think we're at a moment where several different companies within different nations are on a massive quest to reach artificial general intelligence, which is that point where AI can reach levels of human-like intelligence. Yes, the main players, China and the US, are pouring an incredible amount of money and resources into the process in an attempt to reach that point first, right? They are using an incredible amount of energy. That's true. They're raising a lot of money to try to hire the best people. A lot of these businesses are, fighting over each other. We've seen that again playing out in the news with, Microsoft now entering the fray, whereas OpenAI was trying to get Thinking Labs people from a Mira Murati's spin-off recently. We're seeing people moving back and forth, huge amounts of money being thrown around. That is without a doubt. Whereas when I think about the race to the moon, I don't necessarily think that we'll have that man on the moon moment, with LLM AGM, because I might be wrong with AGI, but and I wasn't live back then, but I think that moment kind of
I wasn't suggesting you were.
no, thank you. But I think that moment kind of captured people's imaginations, didn't it? It sort of allowed them to view what is possible for human beings to achieve in a very positive kind of way. And I don't necessarily think that there will be that universal, overwhelmingly positive reaction to AI reaching that point because of just the fear of what that might mean for everybody, right? I think the people who feel positively about it will be excited about that next step, but there isn't that universal, this is the moon, wow, this is amazing, look at this great next step. I don't think we're going to see that in AI. However, I will say at Wired, we believe that generative AI, or LLMs as a form, is simply the stepping stone along the way to a much greater goal. So my colleague Will Knight, who is an AI expert and writes about frontier AI for Wired, strongly believes, and I actually agree with him, the ultimate goal is to match this incredible potential for knowledge and intelligence with a functional and capable corporeal experience. So you can read into that. It's robotics. We believe it's like the next frontier, getting AI to understand the world around it and to materially be able to interact and learn from it. That might provide that wow moment that we're looking for. And it certainly feels that a lot of businesses that are in the AI frontier side of things are thinking that way, and they're going, how can we get that next level? And that might be it, rather than that AGI moment being the thing, for it to be when a robot is able to truly think for itself and operate for itself.
In which case, I just want to end with where we started. We started talking about Apple, and I don't know, I was thinking about it. Are you surprised at all that maybe, I know Apple has Apple Intelligence, but they're maybe not in this conversation as much as, I don't know, I would have thought they would be, as a company that likes to be kind of at the frontier of accessible technology?
Yeah, me too. I think it's been a little bit of a surprise to all of us. And what you've asked is the $1 trillion question, really. I mean, the company was early doors contender with Siri, and you could argue that it was one of the best personal assistants available at the time. But if you think about AI now, and even AI capable technology such as smart glasses, Apple doesn't necessarily spring to mind. They've focused mostly on VR. When Meta, for example, has a partnership to create AI glasses with Ray-Ban, while OpenAI was releasing ChatGPT, Apple was focused on the latest iteration of the iPhone. Having said that, the company is attempting a comeback. So as of yesterday, there were loads of articles saying that it's kind of rejigged its internal AI team, and now Apple's developing a bunch of products and features to develop its vision of AI, including multiple robots, a smart home display, and a revamped version of Siri with some new tech powering it. This is according to a report from Bloomberg yesterday. One of the robots is apparently like a tabletop robot that resembles an iPad mounted to an arm that can move around and follow users as they move around the room, and it can even dance. Look, I'll be honest, Fergus, like, it does look exactly like a lamp that I had from IKEA in 2007.
I'm pretty sure I know the exact lamp that you're talking about, yeah.
It just kind of feels like it's possessed. It can even dance and stuff, and you just sort of see the videos and you're just like, I swear I had that exact thing. Look, I can say that it is hard to see how any of these things will reduce the company's reliance on OpenAI to plug and play LLMs for its customers. And all this does feel like a very different proposition compared to what the likes of Perplexity, Anthropic, and OpenAI have at the moment. But it is important to not forget, I think, in all of this, that Apple has more physical products, loads of stores, and an established customer base to sell to, meaning that comparing the two models, I mean, I hate to say it, but it might be like comparing apples and oranges, right? You don't want to make too much of it, because I don't think they'll do badly, even though they're not necessarily at the cutting edge of AI.
Well, yeah, just a final question. This is obviously me as an outsider looking in, but yeah, I certainly have a perception of Apple as a company who like to make sure they have the finished product almost before releasing it. So yeah, as you sort of said, is that maybe one of the reasons for the reticence and the slowness?
I really don't think so on this occasion. Like, there's been so much reporting about how Apple has kind of had to rejig its internal AI team. So it used to be a siloed affair when it was doing all these kind of really cool Siri things. And then it kind of got split into different sections of the business. So you had kind of people working with individual teams on different products. Now it seems that that is kind of not happening any longer, and they sort of have disbanded this sort of separation of people and kind of brought them together again. I don't know how well that will go. It's obvious that they're not at the point where they can compete on the Gen AI move, right? I mean, that's the issue here. If we're basing ourselves off of that metric, it is hard to say that they'll be able to do well. It is also the case, though, that much like the Ray-Bans, right, you don't necessarily need the technology if you're providing the platform. So if they're able to create a situation where they can acquire that technology, for example, or partner with somebody in a more fundamental level to use AI in a cool way with their devices, that could be a way to sort of leapfrog what we've seen so far and get ahead in the race. Ultimately, it's whoever has deeper pockets, right? That's the play here. So I'm interested to see what Apple does next. I'm hopeful that it will still be in the race, simply because there's a lot of interesting things that might come out of that. But it is true that this reminds me of the smartphone wars, and when Apple first erupted into the scene with the first iPhone, and we thought all the big players then were going to continue, and they didn't. So I'm skeptical.
God, you just put an image in my mind of HTC and the kind of phones that I used to have back in the day.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And like, I used to have a Nokia, like one of those brick phones. And honestly, I still think of it fondly. I also had a BlackBerry, like anything that you name that is like, stuff that you wouldn't find anymore. And that if you ask a 20-year-old now, do you know what this is? They would be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That's the stuff that I used to have and love, frankly. And, still have a bit of nostalgia attached to it. But I guess, I'm hopeful that a business such as Apple, who has very good products and who has very good potential, could adapt.
Natasha Bernal, thank you so much for joining us on the Tech Report today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Fergus.